Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, as we continue our trek through the Baltimore region, we take a look at the Eastpoint Mall in Dundalk, Maryland. This dying mall in the Baltimore suburbs has been struggling in recent times, but still retains a ton of cool architecture as well as a quite unique layout. So join me for a walk through the Eastpoint Mall and let's see what it holds in store for us during my visit in May 2024. History of the Eastpoint Mall would begin in the 1950s, when local developer Joseph Meyerhoff wanted to develop a shopping center within the eastern Baltimore region. Originally beginning life as an open-air mall in 1956, the Eastpoint Shopping Center would become the premier shopping destination for the eastern side of Baltimore, featuring anchors such as Hutzler's and Hochschild Kohns. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing that, along with several other shops, and it would hold a typical outdoor mall layout of the time. But fast forward to the 1970s, and plans to enclose the shopping center would begin development. By 1972, work would begin to enclose the shopping center, and in May 1973, Eastpoint Mall would officially reopen as an enclosed mall. Early advertising of the mall would state, quote, "The only thing we've cooled was the temperature at the all-new climate-controlled Eastpoint Mall," which climate control would be present after the mall was enclosed. By this point, the property would also be renamed to Eastpoint Mall. In 1974, JCPenney would be constructed as the mall's third anchor store. Eastpoint Mall would see great success as an enclosed mall throughout the 70s and 80s. However, this wouldn't stop changes from happening at the shopping center. Hochschild Kohns was struggling in the early 1980s, and Hutzler's would buy out several of their stores, including the Eastpoint Mall location in 1984, and the store would close shortly after. On February 2, 1985, Joseph Meyerhoff would pass away, and as a result, his company, Monumental Properties, would sell the Eastpoint Mall. It would be purchased in a joint venture between New York-based Shopko Development and the Lehman Brothers. And around the same time, the Hochschild Kohn space would be converted to a Value City department store and a Value City furniture. And in 1989, Hutzler's would close their location at Eastpoint Mall as a result of their financial struggles at the time. Despite this, Shopko would announce plans for a multi-million-dollar renovation and expansion to Eastpoint Mall, to add mixed use to the property and focus more on a middle-class market. The existing concourse would be renovated to give us the look we have today. The former Hutzler space would be completely gutted and overhauled to make way for a brand new food court as well as office space. And to top everything off, Sears would be added right next to the food court as a brand new anchor store for the mall. These renovations would be completed by 1991. 1991 would also see the addition of an Ames discount store, which would replace a space previously occupied by a G.C. Murphy. The rest of the 1990s would be pretty quiet, but would still see success. It wasn't until the new millennium when more changes would happen. Ames would close in 2002 as the entire company would go out of business. The space would sit vacant for some time before being converted to a Steve & Barry's. In 2006, Thor Equities would purchase Eastpoint Mall and would become the new owners. 2008 would see both Steve & Barry's and Value City department store close up shop. However, this would not affect the Value City furniture, which would continue to remain open and is still open as of the making of this video. These spaces would not sit vacant for long. The former Steve & Barry's would become a DSW Shoes and a Shoppers World in 2010. Whilst the space left behind by Value City department store would become home to a Burlington coat factory. Now going into this mall, we actually had no idea there was any neon here. So seeing these neon pillars here throughout the atrium and the food court made us really happy. In 2012 would see Eastpoint Mall fall into receivership and it would get acquired by L&R Properties. And in 2014, Baltimore-based MCB Real Estate would purchase Eastpoint Mall. As of the making of this video, they are still the current owners of the mall. However, things would begin to go downhill in the mid-2010s. In 2016, DSW and Shoppers World would close up shop. The space would be converted to a Gabe's in 2018. However, they would lack a mall entrance. And to make matters worse, another anchor would leave in the middle of this, as on November 2nd, 2017, Sears would announce the closure of their Eastpoint Mall location along with 63 other stores. And the store would close for the last time in January 2018. In March 2019, a massive fight between a group of teenagers broke out at Eastpoint Mall. This fight would end up turning into a brawl between hundreds of teens. Security and police were called and arrests were made, but this would bring some negative perception to Eastpoint Mall. And this would also bring on a county-wide movement to beef up security and youth escort policies in area malls. And in March 2020, the COVID lockdown would cause Eastpoint Mall to shut down for a couple months. When the mall reopened, a small vacancy rot would begin to form throughout the mall. This pretty much leaves us to where we are today. Eastpoint Mall is definitely struggling and heading towards dead mall status. However, it's not quite there yet. Whilst there's quite a bit of vacancies throughout the mall, a ton of mom and pop shops and national chains still remain inside the mall. JCPenney in Burlington continue to anchor the mall as of the making of this video, and when we were here, the former Sears was occupied by a furniture clearance center. Although Eastpoint Mall is definitely not perfect, it is doing better than some of the other malls I've covered. And I think it does still have a chance to survive, but only time will tell what will happen to the Eastpoint Mall.
Eastpoint Mall, in my opinion, caught me off guard. The parking lot was nothing special, and after visiting several malls on our trip to Baltimore, I was starting to get burnt out. Shockingly, however, this mall had some really interesting flair and some awesome photo opportunities. The mall was only one floor, but it had a really interesting 3-story food court, complete with neon and mirrored ceilings. Unfortunately, we were told not to go onto the 3rd floor. Overall, this mall was definitely one of the highlights from our Baltimore trip.
Eastpoint Mall definitely was one of my favorites we saw on the trip. Overall, this mall was very pleasant and bright and very welcoming inside. Architecturally, it was really cool and unique. The color scheme was really cool and something I actually haven't seen very often within some of these malls. Now, I could be wrong about this, but it seems like those columns throughout the main concourse of the mall are actually from when the mall was an outdoor mall in the 50s, and if that's true, that's a really cool way to reuse the architecture. I've seen it happen before, and I'm glad to see those columns and pillars are still there. Also, that food court was easily the highlight of this mall. The fact that they converted the former Hutzler's department store into a multi-level food court and office area is really cool. It even had a little entertainment area in the basement. But not only that, the architecture within that food court with the neon, the mirrored ceilings, the green grid ceilings, it all just made this mall really, really cool and easily one of my favorites from the trip. And like I stated before, we didn't even know there was neon here going into this mall, so that was a really cool surprise for us. Now, as I stated before, there definitely is a noticeable vacancy rot throughout the mall. And I don't really know how much worse it's got since we filmed this footage last May, but what I can tell you is this mall does retain some national chains as well as several mom and pop shops. And I think focusing on local and small businesses is definitely the way to go for this mall. But I will say that filling in those tenants is definitely a priority, and I think management needs to work on that quickly before the occupancy gets worse. But nevertheless, I really enjoyed the Eastpoint Mall, and although it's not dead yet, it is definitely struggling, but I think it does still have a chance. But only time will tell what the future holds for the Eastpoint Mall, so we'll just have to wait and see. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for watching my video tour of the Eastpoint Mall in Dundalk, Maryland. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like as it greatly helps support the channel. And whilst you're at it, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more mall videos like this to be released to more viewers like you. I have a lot more mall content coming to the channel very soon with a lot more stuff you're not going to want to miss, so be sure to subscribe for more malls to come your way. I also have an Instagram linked in the description with sneak peeks of future videos coming to the channel, and that's where I'm going to leave it, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching, take care, stay awesome, and have a blessed day. I will see you all in my next video.